drive. Not to give you a heart attack. The continuation of our conversation last night. We're not doing that. But what does get me is but kind of what and it's something I've thought about before, and I haven't really revisited it in a while. Is the fact that like the U.S. government did research things like remote viewing, telekinesis, telepathy, like ESP, all that. They put billions of dollars in it over decades. And like I showed you, I mean, there's a great book called Phenomena by Annie Jacobson. And then there's the guy I showed you last night, Dr. Dale Graff, who headed the Stargate program for the CIA during the Cold War. And the whole gist of all of this stuff for everybody listening is basically, is there more than a 50% chance of success? So like, if I flip a quarter and I'm wearing red socks and it hits head, like that's not from the socks, that's from the probability. But if you could find something where there's legitimate change in probability, I think they were looking for something like 51%. And I want to say it went as high as like 70%. And I was like, well, what were they doing? Was it, me reading Austin's mind? Well, I could probably guess that Austin's a guy who doesn't always do podcasts. So I would imagine, if I had to put money on it, that to a degree, you're kind of nervous because you did one yesterday and today. That's not like special. That's not like a special prediction. What's interesting is they took people like you and I and just said, observe, maybe weapons in the homeland, powerful weapons in the homeland. And nukes weren't a secret then. But ICBM locations were incredibly classified. And these guys who knew nothing about them, it's not like these guys worked in silos. They're like, I'm seeing a silo. These were just grunts. And they would, not only would they like see silos, because that's not really special. That's not like, because anybody could say that, oh, I see something special. They would describe the land masses around these classified areas. They would go, there's some light timber, a white metal fence, a long dirt road, sharp turn, hairpin turn, coming down. Looks like granite, but if you look closer, you can actually see a door. And to the point where they were like ending these things early. They're like, all right, stop. Like, stop. Like, and it made them essentially kind of crap their pants. And so it's like, so what is that in general? If you really, and I've thought about this for years, if you really break it down, like you're a tech guy. Like, if you really break it down, what are satellites in comparison to like human organs? This is a very easy question. What's a satellite? Like a spy satellite.
Spy satellite?
Most base.
It's a floating thing in space.
Yeah. Spy, very strong eyes is what it is. They're very strong eyes. What are radars? Very strong ears.
Yeah.
What are aircraft carriers? What are forward operating bases? Those are fists. Those are, And so really what a lot of technology is, in its most brutalist, simplistic, elemental breakdown, are just wild enhancements of human senses. It's a very, very simplistic, like low poly, low resolution explanation, but that's kind of what it is, right? NSA listening devices that they can hear really closely. SOSIS, it's a net, or it's not a net. They call it the net. It's a series of listening devices on the ocean floor on both coasts, dating back to the 60s to listen for submarines. So at the most basic level, offensive surveillance as well as defensive, security, guarding is just really strong human senses. And so, if you look at World War I, they had these things, they look stupid. The guys had these huge like metal domes that were literally connected to their ears with tubes so they could listen for incoming fighter aircraft. Incredibly primitive, but it worked. What is a telescope? It's a very early satellite. And so what you essentially do is you find the most lethal, the most effective human sense, and you amplify it in any way you can. And then obviously it moves to technological, to where you don't need listening devices, you have radar. You don't need big telescopes, you have spy satellites looking down and zooming in on things.
I've seen this before. Yeah, this is the goofiest looking shit.
Yeah. No, it's that. But look at it at its most basic thing.
Yeah.
It's a human sense, and we want to amplify it, right? So it's early technology, and then as it goes, it's less and less. Then it turns digital, right? But it worked. Okay.
This is the goofiest shit.
Yes, but that is the predecessor to radar. So it's not goofy in that it worked. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And we're looking at it and it's goofy, but at the time it was a leg up. All right. So what is remote viewing? What is, you know, trigger words?
It's this on a spiritual level?
Yes, no,
psychological and spiritual?
Perfect. So what they did is they dumped a lot of money into it and essentially were like, what sense is there? Early on, like, we all have ears, we all have eyes. You amplify it in these weird steampunk metal, tubas sticking in your ears. But it eventually goes into radar nets, and like that's the most valuable thing the military has, your eyes and ears. So there has to be a sense. Whether is it another organ? Is it I don't know. Is it a form of brain waves or receiving brain waves that we don't know about? But there's something, and it's beyond 50%. Right? So if you put those big metal ears on and you were 50% right about incoming planes, that's chance. If all of a sudden 80% of the time you can go, that might only buy you an extra minute, but if that extra minute allows you to load up the anti-aircraft gun, that saves lives. All right. So remote viewing is something. We don't know what it. Let's just pretend that it's like a sense in the brain. We'll just pretend it's like, I don't know what, just like an ear inside the brain or whatever, just some goofy thing. I would imagine that they found which part of the brain was the most active when these guys were accurately remote viewing. And that might not have happened until relatively recently. fMRI is a functional magnetic resonance image. It's where you look at the brain in real time. And instead of you look at the brain and go, here's the tumor, you look at the brain in real time. And like right now, you and I think it's Wernicke's area, that part of our brain will be lighting up because we're talking. I'm talking, I'm running my mouth like an idiot. You're listening. A different part of your brain would actually light up because you're listening, right? You just picked up a glass. Motor control, that'd be more in like the cerebellum would light up. If you could do an fMRI when somebody is accurately remote viewing highly classified things, locations of nuclear submarines, you could find the organ, or it might not even be an organ, it might rather just be like a pattern of brain neurons. If you could find that, you have now discovered the ear, in a sense. And what's the first thing you do? In a very rudimentary way, you would amplify it. And one day we would look back at it and laugh, just like the big metal tuba ears.
Yep.
But that would be the starting point of something more. And the thing is this is all classified. And not only that, they probably said there was nothing there. We had some remote viewing wizards, but if you found it out, that would be more valuable than anything in any military arsenal, short of teleportation. It would be that. And if you found that and then amplified it, you'd have the kind of the steampunk early days, the equivalent thereof. But when you look at real-time HD videos, we don't even take pictures anymore. Our satellites, it's real-time. You zoom, it's a live Google Earth. You zoom in live. What would be the equivalent of that? What if you could remote view? And some of these guys were remote viewing less. It was less about geographical coordinates, but they were remote viewing in time. One of them foresaw a crashing of several U.S. helicopters in the desert with a new highly secretive recon unit. Like, all right, maybe. But the way they described it and the number of casualties was almost accurate to I think the first ever raid by Delta Force under Jimmy Carter to go get the hostages in Iran. Something happened. The rotors fucked up. They all crashed. And no one knew about Delta Force. It wasn't like SEAL teams. Like, no one knew it existed. And they were like, this guy was like a highly secretive recon unit. And they were like Green Berets. And he was like, no. Something we don't know about.
Mm-hmm.
And like described where it was, like describing like, it's in the desert. No, he's like mountain over here. I don't know. It seems to be like an oil kind of refinery there, maybe. He's describing as they were approaching wherever it was in Iran. All right.
Yeah, it's very rudimentary.
Very
So
rudimentary.
here's kind of a good example. This is actually from
Yeah.
the CIA's website. This is documentation that I was able to find. Like that.
Yes.
So that's the building the subject described.
Huh.
Large open area, shade
Yeah.
trees, white building with arches.
Yeah.
Boom. Grant's Tomb in New York City.
Yeah. And so it would be things like that. And one day we'll look back at it and we'll laugh at the same way it's the tuba years. But I guarantee you go back to World War One. When World War One started, 1914, heavier than air flight, so not blimps, was 12 years old. It was like the Wright brothers.
Yeah.
So like we look back at it, we're like, yeah, these idiots with big metal elephant ears are listening to like planes made out of like balsa wood. Yeah, but at the time that was something no one had seen. Men were flying. This was magic. They were flying and they were throwing grenades. Like this was horrifying. Up until then, it had always been like cavalry charges and like swords. They had no idea what was going on, and this was fast adaptation.
So here's my hang up.
Yeah.
Here's where I'm stuck. So, great example with the like the apparatus, the whole megaphone ears
Yeah.
the guy had on earlier. Is there an apparatus for this? Is it just strictly mental? I don't know. Explain this. How are they perceiving this information? How are they filtering through this information?
And that's where it gets tricky. It's also very easy for, let's play devil's advocate. And let's say I'm making all this up and this is, I do a podcast purely about this. You have to be careful with people like me who love conspiracies, because it's so easy to write it off and go, oh, well, you wouldn't know it's classified. It's like, well, that's very convenient. Yeah, I can't tell you it's classified. That's a really good way to say I don't know. But this stuff was classified. So you have broad strokes. You have unclassified. You have classified. You have secret, top secret, TSSCI, top secret, secretive compartmentalized information, and then SAP, Special Access Program. The first Special Access Program was the Manhattan Project. Other notable ones are the Stealth Bomber. This was a Special Access Program called Grill Flame. So this wasn't just classified. They viewed this with the same importance that FDR viewed the bomb with. So this wasn't like, what is that? Yeah, well, no, we'll go throw some money at it. If it doesn't work, this was lock it down. Unless you need to know, you don't know.
Classified within a classification.
Yes. Well, and here's another thing, because I wasn't going to say it because I didn't want it to sound like bullshit, but this is one of the only notable or historically proven cases of special access programs inside special access programs. They put them inside of one another. So if you were in one, you might have thought you were on the inside. No. There was more inside. Insane stuff. All right. So there is, what is it? Is it that there is maybe, I don't know, like a chunk of tissue inside the brain? Is it the pineal gland? Is it more of do some people have it? It's like some people are colorblind. Well, what if like we are all quote unquote like remote viewing blind, but a couple freaks of nature can see it? Okay, so then maybe we wouldn't know. Maybe if they looked at my brain and your brain, it wouldn't be there. I don't know. And it really let's just play devil's advocate. It might also all be BS. This also might be something that you put out there to drive the Soviets insane. If it's the Cold War, would you not do that? Would you not funding? Would you just not? Would you just go, man? We got these wizards that can see everything. The Soviets are like, what are they doing? And you know what? The Soviets actually infiltrated our first special access program. Klaus Fuchs, the Rosenbergs. That's how they got the nuke. Maybe we knew they were in there. We were like, hey, you want to throw them on a 50-year wild goose chase? We got wizards that can see everything.
It would almost be like releasing footage of space travel or a moon landing.
Yeah.
And then
sure.
Go ahead. Here you go, China.
Yeah.
You go,
go. Yeah, I bet you can.
Try and chase us.
Yeah. Okay. That is, to me, is a wild thing that they use this with an above 50% success rate. So I don't know. I always try to think of that in terms of just what would that look like in the modern world then, right? So like, what is a stealth bomb, or in hindsight? So I think the F-117 Nighthawk, that was late 70s, maybe 79. B-2 bomber, the ones that just did the raid on Iran, those first flew, I think, in 1989. Their successor, the B-21 Raider, was, I don't know, came out last year, maybe the year before. And in hindsight, you can look back and you go, "Oh yeah, no, these hits that happened." And we were like, "Who did that?" And no one knew. They just came out of nowhere. It's like, well, it was stealth, all right. And you can kind of extrapolate. You go back to like the 60s and 70s. It's like, how did they know that was happening? Well, we now know in hindsight there were spy satellites, which was no one believed. The early spy satellites, they took pictures and physically ejected film canisters from space into the ocean, and we would go pick them up. And so it sounds like BS. But in hindsight, you can you go, oh, you can see the footprints of it shaping world history, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. What would it look like? And I don't actually have an answer. I'm not like setting this up to illustrate. I'm actually asking because I don't know. What would it look like if it did exist now? Whatever, some less rudimentary form of it. So, like, they've moved on past the big metal years to the what. And do we got to do an ad read? I know that's the whole purpose for doing this.
Yes, we do. Yeah, we do. Let me get that queued up. Just keep going.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I want to throw out a fun fact. I was talking with a friend that works over at Lockheed, the Waterton campus over in Colorado, right off of Wadsworth. And speaking of spy satellites, when that campus, that whole facility was built, and those test pads, and I mean they were, I don't even know what happened there, honestly. From what I've heard, they were actually going to take on a contract similar to what SpaceX was doing, and they had built a whole heavy hangar only for the contract to be shut down, and now they just have a massive heavy hangar facility to build God knows what. But fun fact on satellites there, the reason why they nested that into Waterton Canyon, Russian satellites can't tell the difference between topography.
Yeah.
So they just see it as flat. They just see it as mountainous. They can't actually tell that there's building there.
Yeah, I mean, in the Cold War, they would do it out at Groom Lake, Area 51. They would actually, we knew when their satellites were going over, so we'd put the classified aircraft inside hangars. But then we realized that they were leaving heat signatures because it's Nevada, and it's so the pavement's a zillion degrees. And if you're looking at it with a thermal scope, if there was a plane, there is an imprint of it that's a little colder because it was all in the shade.
Right.
So then they started. So we were hiding them. Then we found out the Soviets were using that. So then we started making fake outlines of random craft and doing that. And then they were trying to, and it was this whole cat and mouse thing. And so, yeah, you never really know like what it is that they're doing or why it's happening. But I mean,
using a heat signature.
Yeah. But to the remote viewing, what would it look like if that existed? It's hard. I mean,
don't know. See, maybe it's not an apparatus. I mean, here's what I'm thinking.
Maybe it's just limited to this weird kind of wizardry, and that's the best we have.
No, if it does exist, I think it could just be a cognition development. I mean, you have, you see it in kids all the time from a young age. If they have, if they lack in certain cognitive development at a young age, they're stunted for the rest of their life. And sometimes after your brain stops forming those pathways, you don't get it back. So why else do you think they're starting on kids at a young age? Maybe it is subjects from MK Ultra. They're trying to
probably
speed up the development of that one area of cognition, so you can perceive those signals. I don't know.
No. And so, well, I mean, the Human Genome Project was a huge thing. I think it was like $13 billion to sequence the human genome, and it took like 15 years, and it was a whole exponential thing. And the last year they did like whatever. But like 25 years ago, you legitimately had to be a billionaire to get like your genome sequenced. Like Steve Jobs is one of the first to have clinical sequencing. They're trying to find out what cancers or what chemotherapeutics they could use against this can. And when did Steve Jobs die? Like 2011, 2012, like not that long ago. And that was like an out of this world, like, yeah, if you can afford it, that'd be nice. Versus now, man, I mean, what is like sub $100? You swab your cheek, you can send it in, get your entire genome. So, well, there's another thing called I think it's called the Human Brain Project, which is essentially the same thing. It's like mapping the brain. And that got a lot more funding. And I don't know for sure. I'm pretty sure a lot of it's done by DARPA. Whereas like the Human Genome Project was like all these medical institutions. This one was more of like, yeah, we're taking this one. And okay, a zillion different reasons you'd want to reverse engineer the brain. I think most prominently, so you could make a synthetic one and then copy and paste it and create an army of analysts and researchers, and then use an army to create an army, and just the whole bootstrapping your way to the singularity idea. But what if you found the thing?
Mm-hmm.
All right, now plug it into a computer. All right, now, hey, get rid of all this other messy stuff. We have this guy who's doing remote viewing, but we have all these problems. Like he has a wife and kids, and he likes to sleep, and all that. It's a big hamper on our productivity. What if we could just grab that thing, make a digital equivalent? We don't need the guys with the ears anymore. We got radars everywhere. What if we could do that? Not only could we make it more powerful, but you could also run it all the time. You could make copies of it and run multiple ones. I don't know. Is there counter remote viewing? Do the Russians have one? And now we're doing the equivalent of like the thermal images. Where are we throwing off fake brain waves for them to detect our? You know what I mean? It's like, all right, we have to make the American populace scared of a Russian invasion, so that if the Russians remote view us, they see a bunch of people who are already ready for it. You have no idea, but this was the entirety of the Cold War. Was this shit? It's just James Jesus Angleton called it a wilderness of mirrors. Like that's what this is. So most broad strokes. What do you want me to do this?
Not yet. Keep talking. I'm getting prepped right now.
Yeah, most broad strokes would be you would use it for things that otherwise would almost be impossible to detect, right? It's Russia invading Ukraine. Even in 2022, it's like there are certain things in reality that there's no workarounds for. They put a bunch of tanks on the border and then went in. It's like, all right, we saw that, right? There's only so many you can see, if 1,000 cartel members on the southern border started march, you would see them. There's only, you can't catch the individual going through, but the individual also can't do that much damage. Well, what about SADMs, SADMs? I don't know what it stands for, but it's the very small nuclear weapons that you could strap onto your chest. There's a project, I think it was called Arc Light or Green Light, or maybe it was Red Light, back in the Cold War, where special forces guys would train to go in with these nukes on their chest, legitimately like the size of a dorm room, bathroom trash can. All right, those are that would be so hard. That would be so hard to intercept. I mean, not just hard to intercept, but because you don't think of how hard is it hard to sneak up on the United States border with an aircraft carrier? Yeah, it's impossible. It does, but think of how large a border is of any country. Are you buying off Border Patrol? Is it a truck? Is it whatever? Are the radars down? Is the X-ray not working? You have to ask yourself, how come a suitcase nuke has never gone off? It seems like something that would almost be inevitable.
Yeah.
Not the whole launching the nuclear missile, but it seems like by now, over the last 80 years, you would have at least had, I don't know, 3 or 4 of them, right? A terrorist attack in Tokyo, or maybe it goes off outside of a city, but there have been 0. and mutually shared destruction. Well, unless you're like a lone actor terrorist, like a Ted Kaczynski type, you might not care about that. So how have are we so good at intelligence and human intelligence and SIGINT and ELINT, or do you maybe reserve remote viewing for that stuff that is otherwise uncatchable?
And you know what you could probably fit a SATM in? A Cadus cooler.
Cadus cooler. You could
Cadus cooler.
Zoom it in a little bit. I don't know if they're gonna like that you could suitcase.
Don't worry, I started the ad read after.
All right, zoom it in a little. Have you zoomed it in? I can't.
I'm
zoom a
zoomed
little
in.
More.
All right, I'll see if I can zoom in some more.
All right, outdoor. There you go. All right, outdoor crew. If you're into fishing, camping, or getting off the grid, meet your new best friend, the Hunter Orange 25 quart cooler from Caddy Sports. CADDIS. This isn't your average cooler. It's rotomolded for max durability, bear-proof. I suppose it's probably a thing you do need, bear-proof, and 20% lighter than other brands, so it's easy to haul whether you're deep in the backcountry or just setting up the dock. You'll get up to 3 days of ice retention thanks to thick, high-performance insulation. That means cold drinks, fresh foods, and fewer ice runs, whether you're chasing muttons offshore or posted up at a campsite. The best part, it's 40 to 50% cheaper than the big-name coolers, but still built to perform season after season. And like all Caddy Sports, it's name brand gear. It's proudly made in the USA. Use code RUMBLE, RUMBLE at checkout for 10% off your entire order today. That's caddysports.com. Go grab the Hunter Orange 25Q 25 quart cooler and keep your next adventure ice cold. Guys, please go help the sponsors that make shows like this possible. Thank you.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah, but no, theoretically, you absolutely could put a nuke in one of those, right?
I wouldn't waste a cooler like that.
I wouldn't.
Maybe a Yeti. I'd use a Yeti. Is everybody still mad at Yeti right now?
I don't know, but you know what? If you had a thermonuclear weapon that you had to keep cool, so when it hit critical, I mean, I don't know. But my point is whether you're out in the wilderness remote viewing silos that you should know nothing about or not, you got to stay hydrated, because right now we don't have the digital equivalent of the apparatus. So we do still need wizards, meaning you got to drink, you got to eat, you got to put some steak in there. I don't know, maybe some fresh fruit, maybe a couple drinks. I don't know. Maybe you got to loosen up before you start remote viewing. I have no idea. It's classified, and if I did know, I'd be dead. But I'm not. So I don't know. Caddy Sports coolers. But so what would it look like if that existed? Well, I imagine that it would kind of, to a degree, look like a timeline where there's never been a suitcase nuke. How come no one's ever released, I don't know, Ebola with a 5-day dormancy? If you released into Hartsfield Jackson Airport in Atlanta and to Chicago O'Hare in Chicago, those are the number 1 and number 2 highest traffic airports on the planet. If you were to, what is that, the White House? Is that classified? You can't get in? No, you just go buy a ticket from Chicago to Atlanta. And if you were to have like an aerosol of it, just go dump it in an atrium, and that would get around, and that would travel all over the world. Ebola is something, I believe it's called the red.
Hey, this is just in from Fidelity. Gold could hit $4,000 an ounce as the Federal Reserve cuts rates to cushion the U.S. economy. The dollar drops and the central bank keeps adding holdings. Gold has been on a record-breaking tear over the last few years, and it doesn't look to be slowing down in the years to come. Are your savings protected with precious metals like gold and silver? Are you waiting for gold and silver to shoot even higher in price? I want you to call my gold partner, Goldco, today and learn more about what precious metals can do for you. That's 844-960-GOLD or visit untamedgold.com. You'll get a free 2025 gold and silver kit, and you'll get info on the number 1 precious metal offer in the game, where you can get up to 10% back in bonus silver just for getting started. But supplies are limited, so don't put it off. Call my gold partner, Goldco, at 844-960-GOLD. GOLD or visit untamedgold.com. That's 844-960-4653 or visit untamedgold.com. In every thread, in every stitch, Honor-Bound USA weaves the fabric of the American spirit. It's not just apparel, it's a testament to God, family, and country. At Honor-Bound USA, we're a family of patriots who put our faith, family, and America first. When you visit our website, you'll find a line of products that embody our commitment to pray, stand, speak, and act. As the official site for the Untamed podcast, all of our products proclaim speaking the truth with courage. We also have the powerful documentary from Professor David Clements, Let My People Go. Identify yourself as one of the few who are willing to stand for what they believe in. Join the Honor-Bound USA family today. Wear it as a badge of honor, commitment to the values that shape us, and a pledge to the bright future we will build together. Because when you're honor-bound, you're not just wearing a brand, you're embodying a lifestyle.
Well, that was mighty odd.
Happens. Stuff gets cut out. I've had that happen with like Dr. Malone talking about COVID and stuff, but I've never had it with any of the CIA guys. Probably, I don't know, whatever. My point is so the idea I was going on is, right, so like a lot of stuff where you go, how come, we've never been at nuclear war? And it's mutual assured destruction. It's not that it's not possible. It's that we have a reason not to do it. China could detonate an EMP above the US and it'd shut down the power. And we would do the same thing 4 seconds later to them. The Soviets could nuke Manhattan, and we could nuke like. There's a reason why this stuff hasn't happened. It's because it's being shoved down your throat too. How come a country hasn't released a boat? Well, because we would do, and that would just kill you as well. So it's like all this stuff. It's you can write it off and go, well, it's for mutual assured destruction. Okay, but what if you have a lone wolf who's not concerned about mutual assured destruction? Somebody who's like legitimately clinically insane. I don't mean lone wolf and that's clearly like a CIA asset. I mean like somebody who's actually a lone wolf. And you could argue, well, maybe there are no lone wolves. And that's not true. We see it all the time with shooters. And across the US, or not the US, across the globe, we see it with car bombs. We do see stuff happening all the time. People just getting in a truck and running through a crowd. So there are lone wolves. And we also know that things like Saddams exist. We do know that bioweapons exist. So how come we've never seen a lone wolf who has no care for self-preservation? They are not deterred by mutual assured destruction, and they just want to cause chaos. How come we've never seen that? And not just never seen it and like it doesn't really happen. I mean never, ever, 0.00% has it ever happened. There's never been a lone wolf suitcase nuke. There's never been someone releasing Ebola. Why has that not happened? Most simplistic, you could say that countries wouldn't do it because mutual assured destruction. A lone wolf might. Then what you do is, well, you would make sure you lock down those weapons so they never can get to a lone wolf. Probable, and that's probably it. But along the lines of, let's pretend this remote viewing thing existed, has been isolated, and has been amplified, we might live in a timeline where that's what remote viewing is for. You would go, and you might be like, well, why do I care if somebody's about to set off a suitcase nuke in China? Well, China might not believe it's a suitcase nuke. They might think it's us. And then we all die. So we would all have, and Russia would be just as like, they would have just as much of an interest that a suitcase nuke didn't go off in New York. Because what if we think it's them? So, and then, well, all right, well, who would have these remote viewing capabilities? Probably superpowers. So, I mean, and this is a very convenient argument. The very world we live in is explained only by, like, I get it. That's kind of a BS thing, but what would the world look like? Something where these very low probability, but insanely highly consequential actions don't happen. And not happen a little bit. I mean, don't happen ever. Why? You remote view it, and you have like an 85% chance that you think it's real, and you send in Delta Force, and you stop it. And the other thing about like prevention is they never really broadcast it as much as they should, because it would make you realize like, oh, the intelligence agencies aren't all evil. Broadcasting it also tells the bad guys that we now know how to stop that one. So you also don't want to broadcast that you know how to prevent this stuff, because you don't want them to get sneakier. For all we know, there's like a long list of classified histories of like suitcase nukes might get intercepted like every other year.
Yep.
And it's just been happening for 80 years, but we keep it classified because there's some telltale sign that we use with the remote viewing thing to find that it's a, I don't know, delusions of grandeur, and you can like find these people or something. Much like the Soviet satellites with the thermal imaging, maybe there is the thought imaging. Maybe psychopaths who think that they're actually about to destroy the world, maybe they give off a certain brainwave activity and we can detect it, and there's like a unique fingerprint. We wouldn't want them to start hiding that. So you would classify this stuff. And then lastly, a lot of this stuff doesn't need classification because people outright just don't believe it because it sounds insane.
Or it's just out in the open.
Yeah, or it's out in the open.
It's in front of us. Something we use every day. So I got a good point on that. But how big of a suitcase do you have at your house, Tommy?
Me?
Because a suitcase nuke.
I don't need to answer that. I'm not going to answer that. I'm not going to answer that. I don't have to answer that. What are you, a lawyer? Am I under arrest?
Special atomic demolition munition. All right.
They're tiny.
They're tiny?
The tiny ones?
They're tiny.
The tiny ones are the ones that are tiny. They're like they're big. They're like strapped to you.
Brother.
Yeah.
These things are huge.
Okay. But do you know why you're
able
to see those? Do you know why you're able to see those images right now? Because they're declassified. And what do we know about the classified stuff? Is it the bee's knees or is it the dog shit that they stopped using 55 years ago? What do you think?
That's what we're allowed to see.
As we're allowed to see. It's not. No, it's not there any. All right. Yeah, sure.
You're not fitting that thing in a suitcase.
Yeah. Yeah. And an iMac and a Mac Pro is the fastest computer in the world. DARPA has nothing else. The NSA uses Macs, nothing else.
Hey, so speaking of Apple,
yeah,
I found a funny little patent filed back in 2023. So you remember me asking about what apparatus, what apparatus is the CIA using for remote viewing? Maybe that wasn't included in the document. You think there's another sub-level of classification? So it's triple classification? Possibility. Maybe they'll never disclose that apparatus. But
why would they?
I think I might have found one of them. You want to take a guess as to what it is? Apple filed this patent not too long ago for AirPods.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can find what I was looking for here.
I'm sure there are impulses they can do to make you feel and think certain different things.
Wearable electronic device includes a set of electrodes, including electrodes positioned in different locations on a non-planar surface.
Yeah.
Wearable electronic device includes a sensor circuit, switching circuit. Switching circuit is operable to electrically connect a number of different subsets of one or more electrodes in a set of electrodes on the sensor unit. So, do you believe this shit?
Well, absolutely. A lot of this stuff. So the next logical step is like, oh, so we all have this on all the time. No, because if you're using it on everyone all the time, it's inevitable that it's going to get found out.
But what did you say earlier? 50%.
Yeah, above
50%. If you can be right 50% of the time, if you're wearing this 50% of the time,
yeah.
Think of that. Think of the massive data you can collect. Biosignal sensing device using dynamic selection of electrodes.
Yeah.
Filed by Apple, July 20th, 2023.
What if you want to say something crazier from even farther back? Look up the LIDA machine, LIDA. It is a machine. It's like the size of like a car radio that the Soviets invented way back when. And it's like one of my favorite conspiracies because I can't find anything else about it, which tells me that it's like, oh, it's in use. LIDA. It's this thing. It's like the size of like the Focusrite red box I have where my microphone's plugged in.
Yeah, Scarlett. I got it.
Yeah. Scarlett. Yeah. and they would like they I think that, and who knows how much this could very well have been Soviet disinfo that gets us, but they would play it and like an entire stadium of people would like fall asleep. All right, well, I mean,
What? Are you talking about yellow cake?
Fake. No, not yellow cake. That's uranium. That's
yellow cake Lita machine.
Oh, maybe it is the yellow cake Lita machine. Is that the name of it?
Well, I think I might be looking up the wrong thing, or it's just pulling up pedals for guitars.
Yeah, look at Lita machine sleep. The Soviet Lita machine, LIDA. The Russian sleep machine. Lita is a 1950s entertainment device used for remote control drugless sedation.
You said entertainment device.
Brain,
right?
Sorry. Brain entrainment device. Sorry.
Brain entrainment device. Okay.
So I've never heard the word entrainment before. I use the word Lita machine sleep. Google. I can just text it to you. Why am I talking to you through like a boomer? You go to the net and you look up these words. You go to
go to the Google.
You go to Ask Jeeves right now. You ask him what them Soviets is up to.
Gotta say please and thank you to Siri.
I know my right. The Lita machine, Dr. Ross 80 in this. Yeah, man. I mean, so what if you could do something like that would just, I don't know, keep a population a little less questioning? I mean, what do you always hear? Wake up, people. What if you could literally make people just kind of a little more, I don't have time to read into that. What if you just had those? I don't know. You put them on like telephone poles. Why wouldn't you? So
put them on telephone poles?
Yeah, well, you want to melt your brain again in the 50s. I don't know what they were called, but you can find them in the book called Raven Rock by Garrett M. Graff, all about nuclear weapons, not nuclear weapons, nuclear bunkers to survive, thermonuclear, blah blah blah, continuity of government. It's a great book. It's one of my favorite books. He's a professor. I've had him on here. I love that book. There was something during the Eisenhower administration, these little boxes, and there's something that nuclear weapons are different from any other event in the universe, and that there's like a double gamma pulse, like even supernovas don't do, or a double X-ray pulse. There's something that nothing else in the universe is this. So you can tell when it's that. And they would put them on like every 100th telephone pole around like the biggest 250 cities in the United States. And I think once or twice a second, they would beam back to the Pentagon that they were still existing. And if they ever saw the double pulse, they would be able to send like a signal that said they saw it, and that would happen right before it was vaporized. Okay, so this was happening in the 50s. Think about if your grandpa came out of the garage, like Korean War vet, and he's telling you that the government's using telephone poles to look out for X-rays in the 50s. You'd be like, yeah, hey, your dad pulled you aside and be like, Uncle Bill has, he's pretty traumatized from the war, but that was real. That was real. Okay. That was 75 years ago. And what was it? And they were sending back signals to the Pentagon like twice a second in the 50s. Okay. And it was just on telephone poles because it looked like a transformer. I don't know.
That's funny. I know they probably don't exist anymore, but
you probably don't need them.
No, they don't. We just have 5G cell towers on every telephone pole a mile.
Well, think about how insane you would come across if you brought that up in the 50s. Not now. You'd be crazy now. Imagine the 50s saying that.
Well, you would sound just as crazy as saying it's 5G on every telephone pole.
There you go. About good point. So what if you had that? And you don't need to use it all the time, because if you use it all the time, it's eventually someone's going to blow the whistle on it. Hold on.
I think you have another show coming up, don't you?
I do. We can keep going for a couple more minutes. You got me jacked up on Cold War, psychokinesis. This is my bread and butter. This is why I wake up in the morning. But like, if you had it, and I remember saying this on a show years ago. I think I was talking about this book, and I went down this like rabbit hole. Is you could also maybe do like subtle things, like a frame rate. So it was an IMAX 60 FPS, 120 or whatever it is, right? Mm-hmm. What if you could just, instead of because when you censor outright, like they did during COVID, it's so in your face that people, it's this dry sand effect. People start looking at the thing you're censoring. Alex Jones kicked from all platforms. Now I want to go find out what Alex Jones is saying. I only know who Andrew Tate is because he got kicked off from all the platforms. I never knew who he was before that. Okay, don't talk about ivermectin or hydroxychloroquine. Don't talk to Joe Rogan. Well, people are naturally like, well, what's he saying? I want to hear it. What if there was like a quieter way to do it, where you left it all up there? You don't block Wikipedia. You don't block any of these patents. But maybe, I don't know, you flash something, and I don't even mean like subliminal messaging. I just mean like, what if you change the frame rate just enough of your computer? You didn't realize it, but every time you started researching about Project Grill Flame, you don't even think about it, but you're a little, I don't know, your stomach kind of hurts. Maybe a little bit of a headache. You don't even think about it. But subconsciously, Pavlovianly, you just kind of stop going down these threads. Because every time I do it, I'm kind of just bad sleep, weird dreams. I don't really do it. And every time you go to Instagram, why do you do the inverse? Every time I go to Instagram, man, that just cheers me up. Well, that's how you would censor stuff without censoring stuff. You wouldn't even want it in your face. You just go, yeah, no, I was reading those books Tommy was talking about, man, and I would have finished them, but I just felt awful for like a couple weeks. Like, and that's why I later found, or I think somebody in the comments was like, look at this. And it was a patent for you changing the hertz rate of your screen to train you like a dog to go towards certain things and away from others. So like, like, I don't know. This is the point when chicks stop texting me. They're like, no, you're a great guy. I'm just, you do a podcast and I'm like, yeah, no, I get it. I've heard it all before. And then some people go along with this and I start going, well, what's wrong with this person? Why are they going along with this? I look at Austin and I'm like, oh, he's also insane like me.
I'll dropped a few times.
Yeah. So, if you outright blocked this stuff, people naturally start looking it up. What if you just kind of made it a little uncomfortable? What if you just made it a little uneasy to use it? I don't know. So all those things, man. I mean,
it's worth entertaining the thought. I mean, you look at practices that are in our daily lives. I mean, things that spas use, therapists use, frequency therapy. And my own mom has used frequency therapy on her joints, and it's actually improved, like 2-3 fold over the period of 5 hours. You can use it for recovery health, mental recovery health, but you can't. It's crazy to think that it can be used for bad.
No, I mean, Eisenhower's whole thing was atoms for peace, because he was like, okay, these can finish the world, but he was also, I think the quote was, power too cheap to meter. Meaning, if we put a nuclear reactor in every state, power bills would be a thing of the past. So there's always that, the greater the deviation from the norm, it can be used for insane bad, or nuclear power could power the planet forever. We don't need resource scarcity. You don't need this stuff, but they do, because that's how you exert power. So I don't think it's just, right. Butter, not, you can use a knife to put butter, or you can stab somebody. It's with all these things. It's both edges. So it could be something wonderful like that. Help your joints, help your whatever. The inverse could be, Havana syndrome. Do you remember that thing going around like 2021, 2022? All those U.S. embassies, all these CIA agents having just crazy headaches and migraines and seizures. And the embassies were like the Russian embassy and like the Cuban embassy. It was like, I wonder what's happening there. It's clearly some form of directed energy weapon. So like, I think this stuff exists, and it makes sense that it would, as we move farther and farther away from kinetic warfare, despite Ukraine, war on terror, all that. If you look at the percentage of the population that dies from wars, and I think casualties from wars, and then maybe even outright involvement in wars, as a percentage of the population has been going down since August 9th, 1945, when we dropped the second A bomb. So even with Korea, Vietnam, war on terror, all this stuff, statistically, we are actually becoming a less and less kinetically violent species. It might not seem it, but statistically we are. And it's important to point out that for all of human history, it was going up every year for millennia until World War II, and then started going down. So it's not just like, yeah, well, World War II is exceptionally bad. No. The trend forever, Richard Rhodes talks about this, was going up, and then it started going down. As we move farther and farther away, does that mean we're going to stop war? No, absolutely not. No. The people in the Pentagon are still going to make war. It's just going to be on a different battlefield. It's going to be psychological. It's going to be brain waves and stuff. So it's, I don't know, in some way, it's almost kind of better. The less people are dying. The other time, it's kind of worse because it's, I mean, truly dystopian technology of nightmares that you really can't even begin to wrap your head around. So I don't know.
Did they ever have a conclusion or a theory to, what caused Havana syndrome?
No, but it was also only a couple years ago, which means that they probably do, and it will be declassified sometime in like the 2080s.
So I'm seeing Havana syndrome started in 2016.
Oh, okay. So farther back.
Yeah. Yeah, dozens of overseas locations.
Uh-huh.
They were noticing side effects in insects, even. So it was like
it seems like a broad kind of.
Yeah, it was globally applied to every living organism in that area.
But in that area, not like the entire city, that area. So meaning it was directed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, in Europe, in 2021, it was experienced in Vienna, in Europe. Dozens of U.S. personnel stationed in Vienna.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And then there's stuff like LRAD. LRAD's looks like a radar. You put it on top of Humvees, make people's skin feel like you're on fire from like 600 yards. That's all declassified. Right?
I remember that. I used to watch Future Weapons.
Yeah.
Remember that show?
Yeah.
That show was fantastic.
It makes me now think like that was a psyop because they were showing us stuff like breaching charges made out of water. It's like the real future weapons are like, you're going to have nightmares and we're going to make you. Future weapons probably was a weapon. There was probably a Hertz grade framing that made us go, this is cool. Future weapons probably was a weapon, dude.
But, I think the next future weapon's spiritual. If you can affect someone on a spiritual level, if you can dement them in a way.
Yeah.
Almost like some of these school shooters. It's unstoppable. Yeah. It's just controlling it. How do you control it?
Well, it's unstoppable until eventually all of human history is just the sword and the shield. Weapon, counter weapon, counter weapon. It'll go forever. It'll never end. Honestly, man, I think it eventually brings you back to God. I really do. Because you're like, how do I fight against it? And at a certain point, you're like, oh, this does kind of sound like, for we fight not, whatever evil of flesh and blood, but rather principalities of different realms. And you're like, oh, yeah, that they're a different. Yeah, sure. Got it. Why wouldn't they? So to me, it's like brought me back to God. I'm like, oh yeah, that's what this is. So, I don't know.
Just find a way to control it. I mean, if you can manipulate human cells with mere frequency emitted from a transmitter, a medically controlled environment, why can't you control something spiritual?
Absolutely.
But speaking of control, Tommy, I think you can take this one. I did one last night, so this is all on you, buddy.
If you pulled up an ad, if you pulled up an ad, no, if you I was gonna say, if you managed to find an ad for spiritual warfare, I will.
No, not controlling spirits, but controlling your PlayStation.
Zoom in a little more.
You can definitely control an Xbox with this.
You're much better at segues than I just straight up start reading an ad like mid sentence, like it's just like somebody activated my MK Ultra word. All right, is it ready?
All you, buddy.
Yeah, that's a great segue. Whether you're trying to control a distant populace or an intelligence outpost through deniable technologies, or you're just trying to control an avatar on a screen, which I suppose we all kind of are, then are you ready to level up your game? You should be. AIM controllers, AIM controllers, is where custom meets unbeatable value, and right now it's the best deal of the year. We start with the official Sony and Xbox controllers, fully compatible with console and PC, no functionality lost. Then you go wild with custom features: smart bumpers, paddles, grips, stick height custom buttons, even design your PS5 snap panels. Who is calling me right now? And here's the point no one else is doing: lifetime warranty on all modified parts. That's right, lifetime. What other company does that? Exactly. Normally, a fully loaded setup could run you $400, but during our one price promo, it's just $209 or 182 euros, no matter how many features you add. Use code RUMBLE at checkout and lock it in. This is your sign. This sounds like the remote viewing. This is your sign. This is your code word. Go to aimcontrollers.com and build the last controller you'll ever need. Thank you, Austin.
You're welcome. Thank you. Hey, I think I found our remote viewing apparatus.
Yeah. Hey.
Yeah.
I have to,
AIM controllers.
absolutely. Hey, I gotta go. Show right now.
No problem, man. Well, hey,
No,
I appreciate you joining me. Thanks for getting some of these
sir.
ad reads crushed.
Yes, sir.
And I'll see you later, buddy.
Yes, sir. All right. Bye-bye.
Later.